Carl and Damon here from Games, Brains, and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and they made what into a TV series. Viva Pinata, filled with fucking fun. It is the penultimate episode of season 2 and the penultimate episode overall. I'd say we're relieved, but we're not quite there yet. I'll be more excited than the last one. Yeah. 2 segments, as always, Superhero Hudson and the amazing Hudini. Aired September 22nd, 2007. And after the brief return to Fergie in the previous episode and the segment number 2, we're back to focusing on what the entirety of this last season has done. Yeah. Hudson. Segment 1, Superhero Hudson. You know how this goes, we talk him through. It's the penultimate episode, and the recent trend continues as it's a Hudson episode. Hudson has woken up, he's feeling good, but his morning is ruined by a meteorite landing in his bathtub. I love the randomness. If that wasn't bad enough, he falls and accidentally licks it. This transforms him into a superhero with super strength and super hearing. Not only that, he can fly. He is Super Hud. What use is a superhero on Pinata Island, alright? Hudson finds a way to help his friends with some of their minor problems. That's what he ends up doing. Problem is that he actually ends up making worse, causing damage wherever he goes. Sometime after, the gang are talking about Super Hud, and Hudson tries to pretend that he's not him, but everyone knows it's him already. It's a funny little joke about that. Yeah. As he leaves, he causes more damage, and later the group discuss the problems he's actually causing. Paulie comes up with the idea of sending Hudson after Pester, and it doesn't take long for Super Hud to make sure Pester can't make any of his plans workable. So he actually does do good there. Yeah. Who or what can stop Super Hud? Pester goes digging, and deep under the island he finds Hudsonite. He's able to stop him temporarily, so we're doing a Superman kryptonite joke here. Yeah. Super Hud is able to break it though, and Pester goes to the Pinatas for help. Look, I can't stop him. They agree to work together to stop Super Hud, thinking he won't care about being a hero if he's not the only one. Now, I want to go off on a little tangent here. I am a big fan of a line from a movie because of how it pertains to things. So here's a good example. When a specific type of movie gets popular, everybody tries to capitalize and make similar movies. It's why we've got so many superhero movies and stuff like that. It happens in horror. Last year or a year ago and so on, Winnie the Pooh fell into public ownership, the original Winnie the Pooh story, which meant as long as any filmmakers and whatever could avoid Disney, which was easy enough to do, and just focused on the original Pooh story, they could now make movies about Winnie the Pooh without any copyright claims. It's why we ended up with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which ended up being quite popular and a lot of money. In fact, the sequel comes out in a couple of weeks' time. Yeah, but it was not alone. And there's been many, many others done. I don't know if you know, recently, Steamboat Willie, the Disney character, fell into public ownership. And guess what? It's coming. Oh, of course it's coming. Of course it is. And things like that. And that's what happens. And more and more stuff that happens. Do you remember when sharks were really popular? And we got Sharknado, and all of those. How many Sharknadoes came out in about a couple of years? 6, 7 of them? Loads of them. But loads more shark movies came out at the same time, to the point where everybody stopped caring. That's what happens. This is what the concept here is. Yeah. You oversaturate it to such an extent. It's like when a game becomes popular, and then you got all these cheap rip-off, knock-off versions of games as well. That's what happens. It's oversaturation of the market. And it always calls back to a line from, it's going to be a weird quote you think, and I love the quote, it's from The Incredibles. And the villain's plan in Incredibles is to make everybody super. Because when everyone is super, nobody is. I was like, that is such a great line. Because it basically tells you about, like, you know what I mean? It's like when a trend happens, and what once started off was funny and clever and a meme, but then everybody starts doing it. And go back a few years ago, the Ice Bucket Challenge, which started off as a legitimate thing to do with charity and just turned into a challenge. And it got to the point where I think it got embarrassing. Embarrassing. When I'd see people doing it, I got embarrassed. I'd second-hand embarrassment for it and what they were doing and stuff like that. So, like, that to see it here, I was like, that's really, really cool. They set it up for Pester to be doing something evil, but when Super Hud arrives, the other Pinatas are dressed up as heroes and stop him. After learning about them, Hudson is upset about the fact he can't be the only superhero around anymore. However, as he flies around, he hears the new heroes and bursts from believing they'll welcome and pest on are actually super villains. After beating them up, he unmasks them and is shocked to see it's his friends. Accusing them of being villains, they reveal they are just sick of his behaviour. After listening to them, he agrees that him being a superstar is enough. He then throws out the meteorite, but unknown to him, it lands on Beverly, who was hiding in his bin, and she is now super and uses her powers to bust into his home. So it's a funny little ending that calls back to obviously the Beverly joke running over. You know, let's not ask questions about why she was hiding in his bin. But there you go. Not a terrible segment, not a great segment. Fine, I think overall.
The ending saved it, I think, a little
bit. I
think
the ending does save it as well. And the idea is just like, let's chuck it out, and that's the end of that. And then we move on. And we do to segment 2, The Amazing Hudini. Hudson is appearing on a talk show, and it appears as though his shtick is getting old. Yeah, no shit. People are sick of his arrogance. And his actors Stell and Pecky, the host, points this out, resulting in Hudson panicking and trying to leave. He ends up getting caught on his stage rope. That results in some hijinks, but the crowds are amused by this. The next day, Simone points out that the stunt went down so well and that he should do more of it to keep himself relevant. Like, you're falling into relevancy, but they liked what you did, the silliness. So maybe do a bit more of that. Obviously, Hudson doesn't want to become a stunt performer, but the arrival of fan mail addressed to Hudson, the impossibilist, starts to convince him. What's an impossibilist, you might be thinking? That's up to a retired impossibilist named Blaine Bunnycombe to explain. So you've got a brand new character right at the end. He offers to take Hudson under his wing to teach him the ways of being an impossibilist. Of course, Hudson agrees, especially when another stunt goes down very well. Blaine agrees to teach him, leading to Hudson being able to perform the most amazing impossibilist stunt ever. The stunts start off small. The Great Hudini opens a tight jar lid. Then he eats a hot air balloon that inflates inside him, leading to him exploding in a shower of candy. The stunts get more and more complex though, with Hudson being frozen in ice and floating in a drink for 3 days. I think this is a joke about David Blaine. Do you remember David Blaine? He's still around today, but like...
Is it the one who's out in a cage?
That's right. The one who was doing as... And like, it felt like he was just trying to stay relevant by like, I'm going to sit in this place for 3 days without eating and shit like that. I think this is a joke about that. It's time for his greatest feat of impossibilism, though. A very complex series of stunts that threaten his life. Do they really, though? He blew himself up earlier on.
They can't hang on there.
Trapped in a concrete block while wearing a straitjacket with a train bearing down on him. I laughed at that. Blaine reveals that there's no such thing as an impossibilist and that he's actually a fraud. He did it to prove that he was the greatest impossibilist by convincing the island such a thing existed. Now, of course, this is a mess of an idea, but I love it because it is purposely messy. Because if an impossibilist doesn't exist, why is he trying to prove that he is the greatest impossibilist by convincing everyone that such a thing doesn't exist?
Yeah.
It's actually, it fucks with your mind. And I like that. Furious, Hudson is able to escape and chases off the plane. However, the straitjacket he is wearing gets the attention of the authorities, who think Hudson escaped an asylum and he's captured and thrown in the back of a van. And it's such a fucking weird, random ending. I kind of like it. Where it's like, we don't really have an ending, but this works, and we'll use that, right?
Again, it's like the ending saved the episode.
So
it was
I don't think it was a bad episode segment overall. Segment overall. I think actually, with Superhero Hudson, this is not a great episode, but it's got 2 decent segments that, right at the end, I can say I enjoyed. And I remember pretty well. So, I'll take that at this stage of the show, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It is episode 25, the penultimate episode of Viva Pinata Season 2. Superhero Hudson and the Amazing Hudini. Hudini. You got any thoughts on it? You know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.